All right, good afternoon. I want to welcome everybody to the first transition clinic at the 2011 Reston Sprint Triathlon. My name is Kevin Kunkel. I'm a USAT certified coach. I also happen to be president of the Washington, D.C. area's oldest triathlon club, the Reston Area Triathletes, or RATs. After this clinic, if you have any questions about RATs, myself or my colleague and our vice president here, Nate Miller, will be more than happy to answer any questions you have about the club. The objective of today is to talk about proper transitions and proper etiquette as well as proper execution. There's so much in transitions I see as a coach and as a competitor and as an athlete that I don't quite understand. If there's one message that I leave you with today, it's keep it simple. Too many people come to transitions, I think they're bringing everything from their house. They've got the backpack, they've got the buckets, they're just carrying everything, and I'm like, first of all, where are you going to put all that, and are you really going to get to that in the limited amount of time you actually have? And I say no. So if you see here today, I'm going to show you just proper setup procedures. You have to be respectful of your fellow competitors, your fellow athletes. You want to minimize the amount of area that you take up on a rack. So you can see today, I think this race is pretty liberal in that they're giving you on one of these racks room for 5 bikes. That's more than enough. As you get to the longer distance triathlons, the half Ironmans, the Ironmans, they give you far less, about half the area. They'll be putting 10 bikes on a rack this size. So what they're giving you the benefit of the doubt. Well, first, before I begin, how many of you are first-time triathletes, have never done a triathlon? Wow, so most of you. Okay, so I'm going to get a lot of questions. Okay, that's good. First. Yes, from here to that center rack. They're giving you room for about 5, I believe. I've been looking over here, and I think that's what they're allocating, which is more than enough space. That's almost 2 feet per bike. That doesn't mean you need to take up all 2 feet. You really don't need that. Like I said, let's keep it simple. Here's what I like to do when I'm doing my setup for transition. First, I like to have some sort of towel or something that identifies my location. The loudest, gaudiest, bright beach towel is the best idea. Something that you think that nobody else in the world is going to have. So I've got this particular beach towel I bought today. Never should you be using this entire space. If you are, you're taking up too much room. But what it's going to allow you to do, as I'm sure they went over on the course talk, when you come out of the swim, if you were racked here, you've got a fairly long, probably a 200-meter jog/run all the way over here. While you're coming, that's when you take off your swim cap. That's when you take off your goggles, okay, and you start to think about what is it I'm wearing that I did in the swim that I'm not going to need on the bike. Another recommendation I make is whatever you're wearing swimming, I suggest you wear that through the entire race. And I'll tell you why. I see too many people who, okay, I'm going to wear my swimsuit, I'm going to wear my Speedo or my Jammers. When I get here, I'm going to put on bike shorts, or I'm going to put on a bike jersey because I'm going cycling. When you're wet, things don't go on well. And when you're racing, even worse, they don't go on well. So I suggest if you're wearing, and what I ideally recommend for a sprint triathlon like this, a pair of tri-shorts, or even your Jammers, because the bike's not very long, and a tri-jersey, which usually is a cycling jersey like this with no sleeves. This is our actual cycling jersey, but our tri-jersey just essentially has no sleeves to get rid of some of that friction that can be caused there. You can wear that in the swim. I mean, you're only swimming a few hundred meters, so it's not something that's going to cause a significant amount of drag. For those who are really interested and really sophisticated and want to get all into it, you can wear a swim skin, which I'm sure Bonsai sells, that goes on over it, which makes you more hydrodynamic in the water. That's what you would be unzipping and shedding off as you're making your way this way. Now, some people will actually wear a wetsuit. Now, if you're really challenged in the swimming, I think that's fine. The only question is, you want to minimize your time in transition, and if you're wearing a wetsuit, it's going to take you more time to take it off than any potential benefit in time you're going to get in a pool distance swim of that long. So I say, wear whatever you're going to wear. If you have a tri-jersey and tri-shorts, wear that in the water, and all you got to worry about taking off, like I said, keep it simple, is taking off those goggles and that swim cap. So when you come to the bike, I don't know if you want to demo, he's got it. He's just going to be running in with the swim goggle. He's going to come, this is his particular setup. He's got his setup right next to me. He's going to come in, he's going to just throw it down in his area. Not anywhere. Keep it in your area, otherwise you probably won't find it when you come back. And then first things first, he's going to go for his helmet. Now this is important. USAT his glasses and his helmet. USAT is very important, and you can be disqualified if you do not have your helmet buckled pretty much at all times. From the moment in time that you are in transition, you're coming into transition, leave your helmet buckled. So the first thing he's going to do, he's going to put on his glasses. Some of you may be needing nutrition. I personally think in a distance race of this long, you probably don't need all that many calories because you're going to be racing less than 2 hours. And I advise my clients any kind of workout you're doing that's less than 2 hours, you really should not need any kind of calorie supplementation. You can get away with pure water. Just as a quick demo about water, as you can see here, I have like an Aero water bottle holder that goes right here, and I have a harness that holds an Aero water bottle here. That is all I carry for every race, including up to Ironman. They provide you a lot of ample places to get water on the courses at longer distance races. You can get it there. So coming in, he's putting on his helmet, he's put on his glasses. First thing he's going to go for is his bike shoes. Now notice the way he has it set up here. He has his running shoes toward the back. He has his bike shoes toward the front. Obvious reasons. You're dripping wet, you're going to come in, you don't want to sit there and fiddle and have to throw your running shoes away. He's got his bike shoes. You notice he's wearing triathlon shoes, which are a little bit different than your traditional bike shoe. They have one big flap that you can leave open for very easy entry. Okay? So he's going to come in, he's going to throw on his shoes. Now, a race distance this long, you really aren't going to need socks. The good thing is having a pair of shoes that you know that you've tested out, that you've ridden for a limited period of time, maybe a half an hour or so, and know that it doesn't cause you blisters or what have you. That should be more than enough and plenty to wear. So right now, he's ready to go biking. And if you notice, all he did was throw down his goggles, put on his helmet, put on his glasses, and he put on his bike shoes. He's ready to grab his bike. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind when you're setting up your transition, most of the time they want you to set up your transition by hooking your bike seat on the rack. It's the easiest way. But my friend here is quite tall. His bike, if he puts in by the bike seat, is kind of stuck. He can't get it out. So he did it by the bars. I always recommend that when you're doing a transition, you know where the entrance is, you know where the exit is. Your bike really, in one way, is wrong. I have it wrong here, but I did this for demo purposes. Should be pointing toward where you're going to go. That way, you're not sitting here and turning things around. So, in his particular situation, he's going to grab his bike. I don't know if you want to go ahead and do it. And while you do that, you want to back straight up. You know you're going to have other bikes most likely next to you, especially if you're a faster swimmer. There's going to be a lot of bikes still on the rack. You want to get your stuff out as quickly and efficiently as possible. He's going to take off, and what's important to note for this race, particularly this race, I highly recommend you put on your shoes in the transition. You'll see in a lot of races people will leave, and I'm one of those people, that leaves their bike shoes, tri-shoes, locked in. The reason why I say in this particular race I think that that's a bad idea is, as you notice, this particular bike course is a multiple loop bike course. And you have an area up here right out of transition where you're merging with people who are coming around on multiple laps. If any of you were here last year, we had a very horrific bike accident where somebody who was coming out essentially hit somebody who was coming down the street on a second lap. So why I'm saying is to put on your shoes here is what happens is sometimes people run out of transition, they jump on their bike, they put their feet on top of the shoes to pedal, and once they get up to speed and they get out on the road, they go about putting their feet in their shoes. You'll see professional triathletes do it. You'll see a lot of elite age group amateur triathletes do it. I do it, but I would not do it at this race because this race does not have the ample wide area. It has a lot of technical turns coming right out of transition. I would go ahead and leave the shoes on the bike. And then what you're going to do is, so by the time you get outside of here at transition, you're clipped in and you're riding and you get up to that corner, you're ready to go. You're not going to be fiddling with anything that's on you anymore. And of course, you're going to make the right turn onto Reston Parkway and you're going to start the bike course that my colleague went over up there. Now, you've done the 3 laps. Repeat that. I'm going to repeat that again. There's 3 laps. We have probably 50 or 100 people every year that get DQ'd because they don't do the 3 full laps. Okay? There was a quick question?
Yeah, just where's the mounting area?
The mounting area will be, it probably isn't really well identified today, but it will certainly be identified tomorrow. They'll have both a person with a flag as well as a line on the road, a point at which you have to go past to mount, and you have to get off before you come back into transition. Okay? So now, Yes, absolutely. Even though he was demoing by getting on the bike here, never, ever, ever, ever get on your bike in transition. That can be an automatic disqualification. Don't do it. So he's coming in, he's scorched the course, he's done the 3 laps in record pace, he's breathing hard, comes in, puts his bike exactly where he had it, then takes off the helmet. So no unstrapping the helmet to save a second when you're running in. Wait till you get your bike on the rack, under your helmet, put it back on the handlebars. He's going to leave his sunglasses on. Now, this is an important, for some of you who are racing, especially if you're new to this, you may not be familiar with a bib belt. Does anybody not have a bib belt or know what a bib belt is? Essentially, you were giving a race number for your run in your bag. Many of you probably run running races. You're very familiar with the bibs. You can always see a triathlete at any running race because he's always wearing one of these. It's a telltale sign. This allows you to take that bib, you put it on here, and essentially has a mechanism, you can go ahead and demo it, that allows him to put it on at any point in time. Now what you're going to do is you're first going to come in, you're going to set that possibly with either another pair of sunglasses or a visor, hat. This particular course is pretty good in that you're not really in any direct sunlight. A lot of it is shaded, but there are a lot of races out there where there is absolutely no shade whatsoever. Any of you ever thinking about doing Eagleman 70.3, which is next weekend out in Cambridge, Maryland? There's not a speck of shade anywhere in the entire course. It's mandatory to have a visor, and if you're scalpally challenged, maybe a hat. Otherwise, you're going to get burned really, really bad. But what you want to do is you're going to want to come in, and once again, this is a relatively short course. I know for many of you who this is the first time triathlon, you're like, it's long enough. But what you want to do is you want a comfortable pair of shoes. If you feel the need to put on socks, I say go ahead and do it. But take your socks, leave them undone, laying on top of each shoe. Come in, and a lot of people feel like they need the socks for the run, but not so much for the bike, because there's just more friction. There's more. So I have no problem with that. You're also not going to be really terribly wet when you come in from the bike, so it shouldn't be that hard. Go ahead, stand right above it. You'll have your shoes off. Put your socks on. One thing you'll want to see here is I use, and he's got them as well, 2 different types of quick laces. And that is, it allows me to put on my shoes without tying them. You know, it's like we're all 4-year-olds again, okay? So it allows us to put on our shoes without having to worry about tying them, but it also saves us some time. So, as you can see, he put on both of his shoes in probably less than 5 seconds. And at that time, and you're going to be setting it on top of your shoes so you don't forget that bib belt. Now, to save some time, you don't need to put it on while you're standing here. That is something that as you take off and you run, to exit the run transition, which is at this end again, while you're running, you can go ahead and put that on. That'll save you some time instead of just standing there. Yes, question? Now, the rules are on a USAT race like this is, provided the bike is properly affixed with your number, you do not have to have the bib number on for the bike. Now, WTC, World Triathlon Corporation, who administers all the 70.3 and Ironman races, does require you to wear your bib on you for the bike portion. But here it's not a requirement. But if you do have a bib belt like this and you've got your, there's no reason you can't put this on before you start the bike so that you don't even have to think about it at the run. But just keep in mind that if you do that, turn it around to the back so the bib's here. But for me, I never do it because it's really annoying to listen to that thing flap all the time. And I'm also worried it's going to fall off. And then you know, I won't have it for the run when I need it. So I go ahead and put this off when I start the run and as I exit here. Now, my understanding is they're going to have a water station right as you exit. And I think it's really important to hydrate more so on the run than even the bike because your exertion level is so high. So get a water there, and there'll be another water course about, I think, halfway out. So for a 5K, you got 2 chances to get water, and that should be more than enough. I guess the only other thing I kind of missed is when we were coming in from the bike, some people will go ahead and clip out and run in their bike shoes. Some people will go ahead and just tear the Velcro thing, leave their bike shoes on, take their feet out, and then walk with it in. Once again, it's one of those personal preference. I highly recommend you practice and try it outside of a race setting, at home first, because it takes some skill. I mean, if you have really good bike handling skills, this will be a piece of cake. But if you're relatively new to your bike and riding it and making turns, I would just suggest that you go ahead and clip out and just get off. Now, I know since many of you are first-time triathletes, many of you might not have bike shoes and running shoes, and that's fine. In fact, you've saved yourself a lot of time in transition, and you've made it even more simple. And that is, when you come in, you're going to be putting on your running shoes before you start the bike, and I assume you have platform pedals or traditional pedals like you were when you were a kid. That's fine. Go ahead and put those on. When you start, you're going to be on those. All you're going to have to do is rack your bike, grab your bib belt or your bib, and take off because you've already got your running shoes on. The one reason I do recommend at some point, if you find that you're bitten by the triathlon bug and you may 24 hours from now saying, oh, I got to do another one of these. At a certain point, you might want to invest in getting bike pedals and bike shoes because it really does make you more efficient. Because when you're cycling, it's not all about just pushing down. It's also about pulling up. It's about making circles, smooth, even circles. And the only way you can do that effectively is with bike shoes because you are affixed to the pedal. I think that pretty much summarizes how you handle T1 and T2. You'll hear those terms expressed a lot. If there's any message I can leave for you, it's keep it simple. As you can see, I can take everything I need for this race is right here, and I can roll it up in that towel and throw it over my back. That's it. You don't need I carry everything I had in here in that one little backpack, and that's all you really need. So are there any questions? Well, no, if you look at the number that you were given, it's a sticker. Okay. It's a big sticker, so you just take it around, strap it right here. Okay. Now, I am one of those aerodynamic weenies. I don't usually like something hanging down here. I tend to take it and fold it around my seat post, but you can still clearly see the number. In fact, I think there's a picture on the Reston Sprint Tri website that shows me racing this a couple years ago, and sure enough, that's how I had the number on my bike. Yeah, they just want to be able to legibly read it. I mean, some people will go really crazy where they'll trim it and everything and they'll put it on here. I'm not spending that much time. Most triathletes are OCD. I'm not that OCD. Okay? So long as it's on there and people can see it and they can say, oh, hey, there goes number 10. That's the key. Okay, the question was the etiquette for going into the T2 or the run. What you want to try to do is put your bike and your stuff back exactly where it was when you started T1. So if you were racked right here, you're not going to want to rack your bike way over here because there was a guy there.
More like the side, does it matter if we're on one rack? Like if I come in, can I come in this side or have to come around the other side? Or?
No, well, ideally I would say bring it back to the way you had it. But for instance, if you notice what I did, my bike was pointed this way when I started. Now I've come in, I've got it pointed this way. That would be okay because if you notice, I have not really changed any of the space this way that I'm taking. It's essentially in the same amount of space. Now, for a race like this where you have 5 bikes to a rack, yeah, you're not going to have any problems. But when you move up to the half Ironman and the full Ironman distance, you're lucky if you get 12 inches. And the way they do that at those races is they'll usually have your number or your name actually on the rack, and they'll stagger it on different sides of the rack. So that's telling you, when you see that, your bike should be pointed that direction, and that's your space. And you don't infringe upon that other person's space. Question? Okay, now here's my opinion on that.
Question. Repeat the question.
The question is, can I put something on the rack to identify so I can readily identify where my bike is? Because obviously there's almost 700 people doing this race. There's going to be a lot of people with bikes that looks like yours, and you want to know where it is. It's okay, I'm not going to say don't do it. Some races completely prohibit it because what you can end up having is 50 red balloons over the transition, and then what? Then how have you helped yourself? You're like, oh, there it is. Oh, no, it's not this red balloon, it's another one. That's why I make the suggestion of getting the loudest, most god-awful beach towel that you've got from some race that you've had in the past. You know, like let's say you were in Florida and you got something that says Clearwater, Florida on it. Well, there might not be a lot of people from Clearwater, Florida. Boom, you've got a towel. Another question.
So this isn't like Southwest Airlines where you line up in order of your numbers?
The rack is identified by what numbers are supposed to be racked on there. It really is, in some ways, like Southwest, and it's a first come, first serve. Ideally, if everybody was thinking about their other racers and not themselves, and like let's say this rack said 5 to 10. 5 should be there and 10 should be here. That's what I do, personally. If I'm number 10, I'm going to be down here because I know 5 is supposed to be there. Sometimes what it is people want to be the closest to the middle because they want to save that quarter of a second it takes to take these 2 steps. So they want to be there. That's fine, just as long as the 5 bikes are evenly spread out. That really is the key. But it has a lot to do with first come, first serve. Some people will be here an hour before the race tomorrow. Like I said before, I'm not a real type A OCD. I'm the kind of guy that comes rolling up about 15 minutes before the race starts. And everybody else is like, where you been? And I'm like, what? I don't need to be here. I'm ready. So I'm different that way. I own my own personal timing chip, but you'll probably be getting something like this tomorrow morning. Now, they'll be providing you a plastic thing that goes around your wrist and around your ankle. And I particularly don't like them because they're very uncomfortable. So I have my own little neoprene one that I own, and I just take the chip and I put it on there. And you really affix it to, it really could be either ankle, but I suggest that when they do it, you want to do it so that the chip faces out. The only reason being is I'm one of these guys that my legs kind of come close to each other, and you can really scuff yourself up good with the chip coming across. The way that the chip, you were asking how does it work? That was the question, sorry. How the chip mat works is essentially anytime it needs to be pretty much your knees are below. It's got to be within about 18, 24 inches of the ground. When you go over, you'll actually hear a little beep beep, and that means it's registered. And if you don't hear the beep, don't go back and keep trying to do it. It may just not be audible, or it may get confused with somebody else. You don't want to have like a 2-second bike split. I mean, that's fast, but it's not that fast. So go ahead and you just pass over it, and usually that chip mat is right before the mounting point. So when you see that big rubber strip across, you know that you're getting really close to the place where you're going to actually get on the bike and come off of the bike.
Would you bother with bike gloves?
Bike gloves, that's a good question. I personally have always told people when I go riding, it's the second most important safety device you have in cycling. Your helmet's number 1, gloves are number 2, because if you fall down, what are you going to do? You're putting your hands down. That's also how you break collarbones. My colleague's very familiar with that. So you really don't want to do that. But in a race of this distance, the nature of triathlon, I would say you really don't need to go with gloves. I don't race with gloves in a triathlon, but I won't go out for a training ride without them. So you just want to minimize your time and try to be safe at all times. And when you get in a race situation with your hands being wet and everything, it'll take you forever to get on, and you'll just simply get frustrated. And when people get frustrated, they make mistakes that end up really hurting themselves. Like I said earlier, the question is, what about nutrition? What kind of nutrition will I need at the Reston Sprint Triathlon? I honestly think a race of this distance, provided you think you're going to be able to finish it in under 2 hours, you will not need any carb or calories. Pretty much water will be enough. The one thing that they will have is when you start the run and halfway onto the run course, they will have both what's called, Hammer makes a drink Heed. It's called Heed, and it's essentially a low, a carb solution. It's very easily to assimilate. They'll have that and water available on the course. You could go ahead and use that right when you're starting the run would be fine. That's when you're going to go into a mode where you're going to be burning significantly more calories than you were when you were biking. But honestly, unless you're going to be out here for like 3 hours, you probably aren't going to need any kind of calorie supplementation. Right. So in any race, I would say up to Olympic distance, you really shouldn't need any kind of calorie supplementation. If you do, what I would say is on your bike, you have a bike rack, put some Gatorade or put some carb solution there on the bike. When you're drinking, you're getting some calories then.
Okay.
Yes.
Somebody asked about bringing a sweatshirt or something.
Yeah.
If a person is a relatively slow swimmer, you might be waiting around for an hour.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a sweatshirt, you won't have access to this area.
That's
so
true.
Again, just as with the flip-flops, if you have some old sweatshirt that you want to get rid of anyway, use it to wear in there while you're waiting, and then hope you might get it back out.
That's another question that was asked about your warm-ups and your gear that you might want over at the swim start since there's a long delay. As I said earlier, before the actual formal clinic started, some people will take flip-flops or stuff because they don't want to run for a couple hundred meters in a parking lot on bare feet. There'll be an area down there where you can put like flip-flops and what have you. And yes, you could go ahead and put like your warm-up sweatshirt there. The question is then, though, when you put on your flip-flops, you got to remember to also pick up your sweatshirt and run with it back to here and leave it at transition. You probably don't want to leave it over there permanently. Yeah. Correct. You could come and get it afterwards. But once the swim is done, the people who are volunteering are going to want to get that area cleaned up and ready to go back into a pool service for Reston pretty soon after. That's another question.
Curious, so for the 3 laps, do we just go through the chip timer thing, the beginning and do our 3 laps and then come back, or each lap you got to
No, absolutely not. You're going to come straight down Reston Parkway. You're going to pass this until your 3rd lap. Then you're going to come in, and the chip mat will only record the beginning and the end. Sorry, the question was about the chip mat. They may have mats out on the course. Oh, they do? Okay, the question was about timing mats. The timing mats that are on the course, if and when there are any, those are primarily there to make sure you're doing all 3 laps. Okay? I don't think they're going to be used to give you splits. But the important part is get the T1, T2 mats that are right here are the ones that you absolutely want to make sure that you go over to record your bike and your run splits. Any other questions?
I have a question about the setup. Sorry if you covered it early. Assuming your bike is racked the way you have it racked, is there etiquette about placing your stuff where your front wheel is touching versus...
I personally, yes, have it toward the front because I find that I spend a lot more time in T1 than I do in T2. So I want my bike pointed to the direction where I'm going to be doing T1. Sometimes when I come into T2, I might point the bike the other way. The important distinction is to just put your bike back in the exact same area where it was. If it's pointing the other direction, it shouldn't present itself as a problem. But you don't want to have it shifted over a foot either way.
So let's say you're approaching, let's say you have your gear in the front, you should say it's a best practice, like your front wheel's touching down, that when you come in for T1, you come in this way, change so that you take the bike off and then just go.
No, as I said earlier, what I like to do is I like to have my bike pointed toward the bike exit when I'm starting. Like right now is how I would have it ideally if I was starting, and I would have my stuff on the other side. I would get it, grab the bike, it's pointed the way I'm going. When I come in, the bike's going to be pointed this way because I'm coming in this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I probably missed it, but is there going to be a separate number for each person or a range of numbers on these bike racks?
The question is there a number range or separate numbers? There is a separate number for every single competitor. Okay. What it is when you come in the morning at the very end of the rack, you're going to see a little sign that's hanging off the end, and it says what range.
What the range is.
And that you need to put yourself seated in a proper place there.
Okay. Number for each bike.
There'll be no. There will not on these racks. There will not be a number for each bike. Some races, like half Ironmans and Ironmans, there is. This particular race, no. It's just a range.
It's just a range.
Correct. Any more questions?